Part 11. I became the richest man in the world by making meatballs. Author, Lanshan Luzi. Chapter 101. Forget it. Bai Qianchun waved her hand, turned to look at the kitchen and said, "No need to bother, there are ready-made pots here, I can just make do with them." "What the hell, do you really want to use a pot to prepare potions?" The staff member's whole body was broken. Even Cao Gia looked at her with eyes full of shock and admiration. "Boss, you really use a pot to prepare potions? This is really insightful." But Jian Yang, the little wolf cub who was holding his breath and watching in a daze, couldn't control himself and got angry. "Are you kidding me? My brother is almost dead. I don't have time to play house with you. Besides, I haven't agreed to let you treat me yet." Bai Qianchun wasn't angry, but looked at him with a pair of dark eyes. "You really don't need my treatment?" "I'm 100% sure." Now not only the staff member and Cao Gia, but also the wandering uncle Cao and the old man Avalon, who had been thinking about something for a long time, also looked over. At this time, the light in his eyes flickered. Jianyang's little wolf cub couldn't help but widen his eyes. He looked at her with surprise but soon turned to a series of complex emotions such as tangled doubts and struggles. Are you telling the truth? Can it really happen? Are you 100% sure to save my brother?" "But my brother saw so many pharmacists, but it was no use. One of them said he was 90% sure, but my brother's condition worsened after drinking his medicine." In this regard, Bai Qianchun did not comfort him with a gentle tone and tried hard to win his consent, but directly gave him a heavy dose of medicine. "Anyway, your brother only has 3 days to live at most, so you will die immediately. Live horse doctor, you won't lose if you let me try it." Jian Yang, his eyes were filled with anger, and he was so angry that he exploded. The beautiful sick man Jian Zhan on the bed also showed a speechless expression, and then smiled helplessly. At this time, a hint of unwillingness to fight to the death suddenly arose in his heart. He had persisted for so long, endured being questioned, harassed, and being used as a guinea pig for various experiments, just to survive, but now the moment of exhaustion was approaching. Even if he was unwilling, he knew that the master pharmacists and top doctors might not be able to save him. So why not let this calm girl, who said he had a 100% chance of being cured, give it a try? The situation cannot get worse, and the worst thing is death immediately. This was good, and it also gave Jian Yang, who already knew the truth, time to spend the star coins he had accumulated for so long. He knew that Jian Yang would never give up until the last moment, even if he only had one left. It sounds like this kid will also take him to the holy pool of light source star. That's why he chose to hide the true condition of his body before, firstly so that Jian Yang wouldn't have to spend the star coins, and secondly, so that Jian Yang, who had taken over the task of taking care of him, could get a few more red stamps and take advantage of the public welfare. He got a space button during the event, which will be very helpful for his future life. Jian Zhan tilted his head and leaned on the pillow. His mind was full of thoughts, and he finally gritted his teeth and decided on his future. He shouted to Jian Yang, who was blocking the door of the kitchen, preventing anyone from entering, "Xiao Yang, get out of the way and let her in. I'm willing to give it a try." "Brother, but she is unreliable. Where can anyone use a pot to prepare potions?" "Brother, don't think about it. Even if you can live for 3 more days, it will only be 3 days." Jian Yang's eyes turned red and she shook her head vigorously. "Don't want to let it go." But when he looked at Jian Zhan's gentle, helpless, and tolerant eyes, his heart couldn't help but soften again, and his attitude was no longer so tough. Bai Qianchun took this opportunity to lift him out of the door by his arm. As he walked to the kitchen, he said unbearably, "I'm not making potions, I'm making pills." "Make pills?" Jian Yang, who was lifted up by a girl shorter than him, muttered something, his earlobes turned red, and he suddenly felt a little more confident in her for no reason. Cao Ting's heart moved, and she walked over expressionlessly, ignoring Jian Yang who was still stunned at the side. She looked at the people in the kitchen with a little starlight dancing in her pale eyes, and asked quietly, "Can I come in and take a look?" Bai Qianchun turned to look at him and said, "Okay." As a result, the ward fell into a strange silence. Only a few wisps of medicinal fragrance floated out from the kitchen from time to time and the voices of the two people talking, but what they were saying specifically seemed to be separated by a layer of people outside. "Can't hear clearly." Seeing the concoction at the bottom of the pot gradually thickening, Cao Ting's eyes grew darker, and her cold voice was filled with emotion. "It's exactly what Mizu said, your pills are a very magical and profound thing." Bai Qianchun raised her eyebrows and said with a smile, "When did you recognize me?" "Just now, you were talking about making balls." "I don't think there is another little girl in a mask who knows how to make balls." "Heh, it seems that Grandpa Mizu has revealed a lot." Cao Ting paused, and then explained in a low voice, "We only communicated about potions. He was studying potions to help Yang, and I was studying potions to help Gold. Although they are aimed at people with different attributes, the potions have the same effect. What's great is that he successfully prepared the preparation and communicated with me, and I also learned some of the process of his success. For example, there was a little girl beside him who was very knowledgeable about medicine and knew how to roll balls, which greatly contributed to the success of the yang-boosting medicine." "A big role." Bai Qianchun smiled slightly and directly revealed the matter of revealing her identity, saying, "Well, Grandpa Miju's Yang Aid potion did help me, but compared to your Yang Aid potion and Gold Aid potion, my Repair the pill is more effective. This is a new pill I developed based on some inspiration from Grandpa Miju's Yang boosting potion. It is specially designed to repair the superpower core of superpowers. No matter what kind of superpowers can be applied. Now Grandpa Mizu has given up on his Yang boosting potions and is now learning how to make balls with me." Cao Ting's pupils trembled for a moment, as if they were dazzled by the light coming from the window. Then he lowered his eyes, pursed his lips and said, "He never told me about this." Bai Qianchun raised his eyebrows and smiled, saying nonchalantly, "I probably didn't have time to say it. I just started teaching him yesterday. Grandpa Mizu is such a drug addict. He should still be addicted to the cauldron and not have time to contact him." "You." Then she seemed to send out an invitation casually, "Master Cao Ting, would you like to come with me to the Muyuan planet and continue to exchange research on pharmaceuticals with Grandpa Mizu? You can do anything about medicines or my pills. And Muyuan star has reopened, and various medicinal materials have been growing rapidly recently. If Master Cao Ting needs to research any medicine, he does not need to worry about the lack of medicinal materials. Moreover, the medicinal materials produced on Muyuan star are much more powerful than ordinary ones. Configuring potions, it's also twice the result with half the effort. I became the richest man in the world by making meatballs." Author, Lanshan Luzi. Chapter 102. Cao Ting's clear eyes finally looked at her with surprise. "Aren't you worried about me stealing lessons?" Bai Qianchun laughed. "I believe in Master Cao Ting's character, and that someone who has been with Grandpa Mizu for many years will not be a person of bad character. Besides, it is not easy to learn my pills learned." She was still very confident about this. Even if she bet all her star coins, even if someone learned 1 or 2 pills, it would only scratch the surface and could not replace her. Although it can't be seen from the surface, Cao Ting, who is actually a drug addict, is crazy in his heart. He has been excited since Mizu talked about this magical ball rolling, but he seemed to be hesitant because he thought of something. "Stand up." He glanced at Bai Qianchun and said hesitantly, "I still have some things to do on the shaking light star, so I need to postpone my trip for a few days." Bai Qianchun's eyes flashed with light, and the corners of his mouth turned up, and he said, "Of course, Muyuan planet is in the harvest season. Master Cao can come anytime he wants. Even after the harvest season, I welcome him." So, the two of them agreed. Outside the kitchen door, Cao Gia opened the door and scratched her head. What were the uncle and the little sister talking about inside? Why did they open the soundproof wall? Could it be that they were talking about some secret? Jianyang was so disturbed by her appearance that he simply walked back to the bedside to accompany his brother. It was already 2 hours later when the two came out of the kitchen, and Avalon had even set out a luxurious dinner. The two Jian brothers had no intention of eating yet. One of them was closing his eyes to rest, but his trembling eyelashes still betrayed his uneasy mood at this time. The other one was looking at the ceiling blankly, wondering what he was thinking. The smell of cooking rice wafting in the room didn't interest him at all. On the other hand, Cao Gia and the staff member who had not yet left were like two gods, standing one on the left and one on the right, holding their stomachs, with pitiful expressions, as if they were about to cry from greed. "Huh? Is it time for dinner?" Bai Qianchun smelled the aroma of the food and raised her eyes to glance into the bedroom. As soon as Jianyang heard this voice, he immediately jumped over like a rabbit, rushed to them and asked, "How are you doing? How are you doing with the meatballs that saved my brother?" Bai Qianchun raised the corner of her mouth and said with stars in her eyes, "Of course it was done successfully." Then she handed over the two small bowls in her hand. "If there's no place to put them in, just put them in the bowls. The 3 black pills on the left are called repair pills. You can give your brother 1 pill every day to repair your brother's leaky sieve. It's a superpower core. You can fix the loopholes by eating your brother's superpower core for 3 days. As for the green bowl of 3 pills on the right, they are called vitality pills, the best holy product for repairing muscles and veins. However, the medicinal materials stocked in the sanatorium are not good, and the effect of the medicine is not enough for the year. Now this one can only be called a low-end version of vitality pills, so it needs to be continued. Take 3 pills at a time, and your brother's tendons and veins burned by the fire-type ability will be repaired." Jianyang stared blankly at the 6 jelly bean-like balls of 2 colors in the 2 bowls. Is it that simple?" Bai Qianchun asked him. "Then how complicated do you want it to be?" No, that's not what I meant." Jianyang shook his head like a rattle, his eyes were dazed, and he said with a troubled expression, Didn't you say that my brother's life is almost over? These 6 balls are really, can you bring my brother back and still be intact?" Bai Qianchun paused, raised an eyebrow and said, "It's not that intact, at least it can't be restored to its original state." Seeing that the little wolf cub's face changed and he became anxious again, she did not panic and continued to add slowly, "The fire element in your brother's superpower core has been lost. This is not something that a few pills can do. After taking the recovery pill, you can only see how much of the fire element is left in his superpower core, and how much of his superpower strength is left after taking the recovery pill. It is impossible to restore the strength he had before the superpower core was damaged." "Well, what if my brother starts practicing again, will his superpowers be able to come back?" "Of course, the superpower core and tendons are good. He can come back from training like a newly awakened superpower. His lifespan will not be wasted, and it will increase with the advancement of superpowers like ordinary superpowers." Great. Bai Qianchun spoke so confidently and calmly, and the efficacy of the medicine was also convincing. Jianyang believed it without much doubt. Perhaps he subconsciously wanted what she said to be true, so he took the 2, pretending after taking the bowl of his brother's life-saving pills, he quickly said thank you and then carefully carried them to the bedside. "Brother, can I feed you?" Jianzhan opened his eyes. There was no trace of confusion in his eyes and he was very awake. His pale thin lips were curved. When he met his brother's starry eyes full of hope, he moved his chin up and down with difficulty, and spoke with a warm voice. "Dry, Okay. Jian Yang was overjoyed, and was about to reach out to grab the meatball, but after thinking about it, he retracted his hand, quickly rushed into the kitchen and brought back a pair of chopsticks, and then carefully picked up a black meatball and fed it to Jian Zhan. When Jian Zhan opened his mouth and bit the meatball into his mouth, everyone in the room became excited. Avalon couldn't help but put down his chopsticks, stood up, and focused all his attention on Jian Zhan. Cao Jia and the staff member were holding onto the hospital bed, staring at Jian Zhan without blinking. When they saw his Adam's apple rolling, their faces were full of excitement, and they couldn't wait to ask, "How are you doing? How do you feel? Did it work?" Even Cao Ting, who was watching Bai Qianchun roll out the meatballs step by step, was also watching with concentration. Although he didn't speak, his concentration on Jian Zhan could be seen from his focused eyes, or rather it was the attention paid to the pills made by Bai Qianchun. Cao Jia swore that she had only seen her grandfather look at him with such concentration, as if looking at a rare beauty, when he was mixing potions. At this moment, Jian Zhan, who was the center of attention of everyone in the room, was no less nervous and excited than others, even 10 times or 100 times more intense. However, he could control it well. Only his hand on the quilt was tightly pulled. He was holding the quilt, and his knuckles turned white from exertion, revealing his inner uneasiness. He opened his mouth and moved, not sure whether it was because he was being stared at or because his mouth was dry due to nervousness. His smile was slightly stiff and he said, I don't feel much yet." Bai Qianchun wandered around and finally sat down on the fabric sofa next to Avalon. When she saw several people turning to look at her, she raised her eyes slightly and explained in a calm voice, "This is normal. Superpowers. The repair of the core is gentle and silent, and you may only feel a slight fever. If you are a water-type person, you will notice the difference immediately, but you are a fire-type person, so you won't feel much difference. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I became the richest man in the world by making meatballs." Author, Lanshan Luzi. Chapter 103. But you will feel a little more obvious when you take the vitality pill. Although the effect of the vitality pill is mild, it will have a moistening and cooling effect like water. When the fire in your veins meets the moist water, the feeling will be very obvious. Jian Yang looked eager to try. "Can I eat it now?" "Can." So Jian Yang fed his brother another green pill, then looked at his brother with bright eyes and asked, "How are you, do you feel it?" Jian Zhan blinked, and when he opened his mouth, he couldn't help but let out a comfortable sigh. It has been nearly a year since he was injured and his superpower core was damaged. The pain of burning muscles and veins caused by the escape of fire elements tortures him all the time. Especially a month ago, more fire elements escaped and the burning feeling became more intense. It was violent, as if it was going to burn his whole body, so his current condition of muscles and veins was like a desert that had been scorched all year round. Now a stream of water flowed violently, making people feel soft almost instantly. The coolness. Like the rain coming after a long drought, he felt that his whole body was refreshed, and the numbness and heaviness that had been suppressed on his body before, and the shadow of death that followed him seemed to have been taken away together. "Brother, please talk, how are you?" Jian Zhan came back to his senses, and the smile in his warm eyes deepened and fell on Jian Yang's eager face. "Very good, it feels good. There is no better time this year than now. I want to be comfortable, have a good sleep." Jian Yang's eyes lit up and he said happily, "Sleep, sleep, brother, you haven't slept for several days. The dark circles under your eyes are as heavy as someone punched you twice." Ye Jian Zhan did not refute his brother's exaggerated metaphor, and smiled happily. It was different from the smile they had seen before that looked like it would hurt if he smiled too much. The arc was wider and more realistic. Almost less than 2 seconds after he finished speaking, his eyelids fell uncontrollably. Finally, he closed his eyes and fell into a deep sleep with the smile still remaining at the corner of his mouth. They could see the obvious change. After Jianyang wiped his face gently, the sweat on his forehead stopped, the 2 strange red spots on his cheeks disappeared, and his heavy breathing changed. It's clear and shallow. He slept deeply and soundly, in an unprecedented good state. Jianyang looked at it and grinned silently with joy. He took out 2 small boxes from his arms, just enough to put the remaining 4 pills in them. Then he started to raise his eyebrows and started to chase people away fiercely. Avalon was unwilling to leave. The grumpy old man's face seemed to have lost his temper. He stood on tiptoes and stared at Jianzhan eagerly, muttering, "How about we call the doctor over again, check his physical condition and see how he is doing." Regarding this pill with immediate effect, the old man wanted to test it again to make sure. Jianyang raised his eyebrows and even moved the table full of delicious food out for him. After that, he lowered his voice and said, "Let's go, let's go. The whole world is not as big as my brother's sleep. Check and wait for my brother to wake up. It's not too late to check again. Now you all go out and give my brother a quiet space." In the end, Avalon turned around 3 times and was still pushed out of the door. But towards Bai Qianchun and Cao Ting, who were helping in the kitchen, the little wolf cub's attitude was much gentler, and he politely smiled and used please word. Cao Jia and the staff member thought that they were not as important as the 3 people who had already gone out, so they hurriedly walked out of the bedroom in a sensible manner. As soon as the bedroom door closed, everyone in the living room immediately breathed a sigh of relief and let go. Cao Jia looked at Bai Qianchun with admiration and gave her a thumbs up. "Boss, you are so awesome. I didn't expect that you are a big guy in fertility plants and pharmaceuticals. You are awesome, I'm so horny." Jianyang nodded in agreement. He had been guarding his brother for so long, and no one knew better than him how rare it was for his brother to feel comfortable after taking the medicine just now, so even though there were still 4 pills that had not been used up, he didn't even have to believe that they could definitely cure his brother. Bai Qianchun's eyes slightly curved, accepting the twinkling adoring looks from the 2 of them. Cao Jia happily came over to the 2 sisters and asked, "Boss, you have made a lot of money this time. 500 red badges can be directly exchanged for a 50 cubic meter space button, so do you still continue to receive treatment tasks from the sanatorium? There is also a 100 cubic meter space button above, you can get it if you cure another patient." Jianyang's eyes suddenly lit up, and he hurriedly rushed in front of Avalon, who was about to speak, and shouted excitedly, followed by Cao Jia, "Boss, can you cure mania?" "That's right, my brother, I am a comrade and best partner with patient number 20. Both of them were injured in the border war a year ago. It was because of his help that my brother was able to enter this nursing home for free. So if the boss can cure mania, can you take over his treatment mission?" Bai Qianchun touched her chin and recalled the disease description on the previous mission interface. "Is it mania caused by superpower nuclear disorder? What superpower does he have?" Jianyang's eyes lit up, and he immediately pulled out his memory and said seriously, "It's the wood type. Brother Shikun was an S-level wood type before he was injured and sent to a nursing home." Bai Qianchun frowned slightly and thought, wood type should be a gentle power that mainly heals. It also has the function of instinctively calming and repairing the main body. Generally speaking, it is unlikely to cause mania. Jianyang's heart tightened and he looked at her helplessly. "Well, there's nothing you can do about it." Bai Qianchun glanced at him with a slight smile. "I won't know for sure whether it can be cured until I see him and judge the condition, but there is a high probability that it will be fine." "Ah, great!" Jianyang jumped up excitedly. "Then, when will we go?" Bai Qianchun thought for a moment. I won't be able to stay on the fluttering star for long. If I can make it through the night, I'll go over there after dinner and have a look. In the morning the day after tomorrow, your brother will take 3 pills of superpower core. After fully recovering, I redeemed the space button and left. Originally, she planned to rush back tomorrow, but for the sake of the space connection, it didn't matter if she stayed one more night. On the side, Avalon, an old man who was afraid of death, suddenly felt excited in his heart. He was leaving so soon? At that time, he couldn't help but rush directly to Bai Qian-chun, lowered his airs, gave up his old face, and came over with a licking face and asked, "Little girl, I also have a problem with my muscles and veins." Mu Yuan Xing turned on the wood element. After another wave of flushing, the blockage of the tendons became more serious. Instead of rising, my power dropped to another level. Do you think your vitality pill has any effect on my situation? I am willing to spend money to buy it. No matter how much it is, it doesn't matter. I'll buy the high-end version. I became the richest man in the world by making meatballs. Author, Lanshan Luzi. Chapter 104. Bai Qian-chun raised her eyes and looked at him with a half-smile. Don't you suspect that I am cheating? Avalon immediately turned his head into a rattle. No, no, your pills are very effective. I still have this kind of eyesight after being a mecha master for so many years. This is quite true. The corner of Jian Yang's mouth twitched. Who just shouted that he wanted to check his brother's body again to see how he was doing. Cao Jiajia was also stunned and looked at this grumpy old man with admiration. Are you so flexible? Where is your arrogance, where is your background, where is your little temper? Where have they all gone? But I have to say she was very happy. Avalon, who was eagerly asking for medicine, accidentally caught a glimpse of her expression that was so shocked that he couldn't explain it. He curled his lips and said, surprised. Old man, I'm not usually such a tricky and bad-tempered person. I'm just waiting for death. Don't let me lose my temper. I'm happy to add trouble to that old fox Li Chao. Cao Jiajia blinked. Then the question is, who is Li Chao? Avalon's eyes widened angrily. Who else, whose surname is Li on this shaking light star, can be so bold as to lure me, the old man, to this sanatorium and then threaten and induce me to not let me leave? Since I don't follow morality, I don't like the old man, so I can do something fun by myself. Today, as an old man, I just want to make news about the biased law enforcement in Yao Guangstar and the connivance of the old man behind the scenes in bullying the little girl from outside. I didn't expect that you two little girls are so powerful, and it suddenly escalated to the entire high-level issue of Yao Guangstar and the welfare of star citizens. Okay, this news is definitely hot, better than the original plan. The old fox must be blue in the face. As he spoke, he slapped his forehead as if he had thought of something. He turned on his optical brain with excitement on his face, and started typing text. He was still muttering enthusiastically, no, old man, I have to hurry up and add fuel to his fire, otherwise according to the old fox's methods, this news will definitely be suppressed and sink to the bottom. Cao Jiajia's forehead was filled with questions. What is going on? A dramatic turn of events? The grumpy old man is still a planner, and his bad temper is all a lie to stir up trouble? She raised her eyebrows and became even more angry. Then why are you bullying me? I'm just an innocent, pitiful, and weak little girl. Why should I be involved in this plan? Bai Qian-chun also frowned. Although she didn't have a strong sense of morality, she didn't agree with Avalon's approach. The most important thing was that she quite liked Cao Jiajia, a straightforward little girl, and she could be considered her friend. Innocent, pitiful, and weak. Avalon stopped what he was doing, turned around and stared at her with a toothache on his face, which made Cao Jiajia feel guilty. She straightened her chest, regained her composure, and turned back to glare at him. What's wrong? Am I not weak, innocent, or pitiful? Avalon curled his lips. That is indeed not innocent, pitiful, or weak. How did you look so powerful when you made the vicious old lady tremble outside the starry skyport? The people over there were just because of this look. I selected you, and only your temper can make things big. People over there, Bai Qianchun looked over with sharp eyes. Avalon was suddenly excited. He said it too excitedly and let it slip. He glanced out with guilty eyes, looking up and down but not looking at them. After finally confirming that the handsome guy who was following the nursing home had gone out at some point and was no longer in the room, he breathed a sigh of relief. Then he immediately denied it. You heard wrong, I didn't say anything. This matter was brought about by the old man and me because I saw that old fox was unhappy. I originally planned to wait for the matter to pass before I talked to you two. Let me talk to a little girl about the cost of suffocation. Now that we have met, it saves us a lot of trouble. How about 5 million for suffocation? Caoggia grabbed her hair and glared at him with an angry look on her face. Is it a matter of the shock fee now? We are talking about why, and you want to expose this matter without even saying you're sorry. What good things are you thinking about? Avalon rolled his eyes, feeling a little guilty, and said tentatively, then, I'm sorry. Caoggia choked and held back her words, and then Avalon spoke again, this time with a hint of sincerity. I'm really sorry. How about changing the shock fee to 10 million, and what we did before the video in the park was uploaded to Starnet. Although freedom of speech is now free and video shooting is free, it still infringes on your portrait rights. I personally invested 100 million to buy your portrait rights. You see. The old man rubbed his hands. 100 million is the tax that a high-class star has to pay for a year. It can be said to be a large sum of money. Just looking at this amount, it can be seen that Avalon is really bleeding. Caoggia's eyes were shining. For a poor child whose monthly pocket money was only 100 star coins, she was too excited about the huge wealth that hit her on the head. She swallowed her saliva and tried not to let herself bow down under the glory of this huge amount of money, but it was too difficult. Bai Qianchun was not as easy to deceive as she was. Her dark eyes looked at the old man with insight, and she said with a playful smile, did you really plan to ask us to compensate you for being frightened? Or did you think I had the effect of the medicine in my hand? I only remembered good medicine. Avalon curled his lips dejectedly, but he didn't feel guilty this time. Of course it's true, I don't have much but a lot of star coins. I thought I wouldn't be alive for long, and I couldn't take away the star coins in my account. It's okay to pay compensation. Bai Qianchun grasped the key point, is it something you want to give privately? Avalon glared at her, I said there was no one else, but you heard me wrong. I did this alone. Okay, Bai Qianchun gave him a deep look. The old man was not completely hopeless, but who was the person who wanted to use this little old man to cause trouble at the critical moment of shaking Light Star? What about power? It seems that she had thought of this star too simply before, and she did not expect that there was a conspiracy of power struggle hidden behind the ordinary flower shooting incident. It was no less exciting than the war-torn era in her previous life. She did not continue to ask any more questions. The old man made it clear that he would not reveal the promoter behind him, so she changed the topic. That video will make you look bad. Even though you are the former #1 in the empire, the master of mecha manufacturing is not as popular as the master of mecha manufacturing in the First Empire, but he has once been brilliant. Aren't you afraid of being recognized? Why do you, the main troublemaker, have to bear more firepower than the fluttering star? I became the richest man in the world by making meatballs. Author, Lanshan Luzi. Chapter 105. She didn't quite understand the operation of this wave, which was both stinky and stinky, and both black and white. It cost 1,000 to oneself but only 200 to the enemy. Logically speaking, Since Avalon was once a mecha manufacturing genius, he wouldn't be so stupid as to dig a hole and bury himself first. In this regard, Avalon did not panic at all. Instead, there was a hint of interest in the corner of his mouth. "Little girl, you don't understand this, I'm just waiting for them to pour dirty water on my head. When the time comes, then I can stand up and expose the conspiracy of this sanatorium. Then I will pretend to be pitiful and say that the reason for doing this is to attract the attention of the entire galaxy. I, an honorary mecha master who has made great contributions to the Empire, is actually being imprisoned in the shaking room." Guangxin was treated as a guinea pig and couldn't get out, so he had no choice but to seek help in this way. "Hey, this sanatorium can't be hidden anymore. As long as someone comes to investigate, they can find out what's going on here. After all, what I said is true. The patients here are all white mice, just like this young man number 8. It's the one that's been tortured the most, and this is my real trump card, ha ha ha." Cao Jiajia's expression was hard to describe. The young man Jian Yang had an indignant look on his face, and he obviously supported Avalon's view. The people in the nursing home didn't care about his brother's health at all. It was completely different from what he said in the free agreement he signed before. There was also a message on the taskbar. The task that anyone could take was posted directly without their consent. The purpose of the sanatorium was to cast a wide net. As for whether his brother was in pain or not, they didn't care whether those who took over the task were quacks. They all regarded his brother as the weakest persimmon. In the room, Cao Ting was the only one who remained expressionless, but her obscure eyes seemed to reveal some of the emotions he had expected. Bai Qianchun glanced at him thoughtfully, then turned back to Avalon, who was laughing with his hands on his hips. Her guess when she looked at the taskbar was confirmed. There was indeed something strange in this nursing home where all patients with superpowers and muscle problems were admitted. What was he doing for it? She combined what Avalon said with some of the clues she had seen before and stringed it together in her mind. The most likely conclusion she got was that there was an important person in Fluttering Star who had a problem with his superpower, so that was why he chose such a sanatorium to raise so many mice to find medicine for himself. In this case, wouldn't she, who cured people, take the initiative to fall into the trap? Bai Qianchun looked at Avalon with a toothache expression on his face. Seeing her expression, Cao Jiajia poked her arm and said with a sad face, "Boss, have you also thought about it? We are in danger now." Bai Qianchun showed a surprised expression. Was she enlightened? But I heard Cao Jiajia continue to say excitedly, "According to the plan mentioned by the old man, when the shaking light star is hit hard by public opinion and fails to rise to the star, he, the instigator and the much anticipated honorary mecha master, will be fine, but we will be in danger. The grass that broke the camel's back is also ours. A skinny camel is bigger than a horse. We are just two nameless little ants. If the star shakes his anger on us, he will have to press one at a time. Die." Bai Qianchun, "Well, what you said makes sense, so we have to get a little more surprise fee and portrait usage fee." Ah, Cao Jiajia looked confused. Aren't they discussing life-saving matters now? Why did the topic suddenly jump to the shock fee? Bai Qianchun explained to her calmly, "The video has been circulated. You can check the Star Network. Now it is very popular, so even if we want to remedy the situation and ask for mosaic on the face, it will not help. Unless everything is broken, we can gain a little favor from the shaking light star by playing the recording of the plan that Avalon just mentioned." Before she finished speaking, Avalon, who was listening with his ears pricked up, turned green. "What, you still have the recording? Don't release it, otherwise my performance will be in vain. Ziobai the mouse is in vain, otherwise, I will protect you." Bai Qianchun rolled her eyes at him. "Doesn't that mean we are acting together as a team? Are you helping us or causing us hatred?" Avalon was exhausted and gave up treatment. Then what do you think we should do? He was extremely regretful at this moment. This shouldn't be the case. Although he usually couldn't help but like to chatter, things had to be prioritized. Why couldn't he help but speak out the things in his heart? Although he didn't tell everything, but his plan was revealed. It would be understandable if he only told Cao Ting. Although they were not on good terms, they were still trustworthy people who had known each other for 100 years. It was possible that he couldn't help but vent his plans and revealed the plan, but the two little ones in front of him, the girl has a little wolf cub who is not within the safety range of his own people. Avalon was puzzled and naturally didn't notice the faint air coming from Bai Qianchun's pocket. Rosemary, colorless and odorless, spreading in the air can amplify people's emotions. Avalon happened to be in her pocket, and he was the closest, so he was most affected. Speaking of this, Bai Qianchun really didn't mean to plot Avalon's plan. She just saw Avalon's violent temper and felt that it was difficult to negotiate with him in exchange for rewards, so she wanted to amplify Avalon's plan. Her desire for survival made him take the initiative to speak, so that she could take another order, and then seize the opportunity to ask Avalon to change the reward, from designing a mecha to designing a meatball-making robot for her. But she didn't expect that Avalon's desire to talk would exceed his desire to survive, and he would reveal his plan. There are always things beyond her expectations. Just when Bai Qianchun was thinking about the right price to make a big fortune, there was movement outside the ward door. She quickly winked at the other 4 people in the room, and Avalon suddenly sat upright, with a serious expression and a worried heart. People from the nursing home are here, these 2 little girls won't betray themselves, right? The door to the ward was opened, and the rather handsome face of the staff member immediately emerged from the door, with a bright smile on his face. Master Avalon, Master Cao, and this. He looked at Bai Qianchun and his smile was slightly frozen. What's worse, he didn't seem to know the name of this big boss. Bai Qianchun glanced at him and said calmly, "Just call me the ancient doctor." "Oh, Miss Ancient Medicine, no, Master of Ancient Medicine." The young man smiled enthusiastically, then pushed a dining car from behind and walked in from the door. He said to Bai Qianchun enthusiastically, "Ancient Medicine Master, in order to thank you for treating the patients in our sanatorium, this is a free meal specially prepared for you. If you don't like these dishes, I can ask the kitchen to change them immediately. Several of our chefs are still waiting in the kitchen, waiting delicious food prepared for you." You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I became the richest man in the world by making meatballs. Author, Lanshan Luzi. Chapter 106. Avalon's eyelids twitched. All the sugar-coated bullets were sugar-coated bullets. The old fox's men were as smart as foxes, and they even engaged in food temptations. Bai Qianchun glanced with interest at the dining cart which was opened by the staff member. The rich aroma suddenly filled the room. Luxurious lobster, tuna sashimi, wontons mixed with spring onion, crystal meat, braised lion head, spring rolls, koi raincoat cucumber, chocolate dessert. Luxurious and luxurious, homely and homely, desserts and desserts. Everyone in the room swallowed their saliva, feeling that the whole dining car was exuding the starlight of gourmet food, bright and bright. In comparison, the feast of fish and meat on the table next to Avalon seemed a bit greasy. In addition, these dishes were almost cold and had lost their original delicious color. They were really the same as those on the dining car. There's nothing like a well-prepared meal. Avalon swallowed and looked nervously at Bai Qianchun aside. He finally figured out that the girl with the mask was the most clever and unpredictable person. Will his plan be exposed? It all depends on her if she reveals it. Will this little girl be tempted away by these delicacies now? Bai Qianchun noticed his gaze, and turned her head towards him with a pair of smiling eyes exposed outside the mask, Why is Master Avalon looking at me like this? Is he worried about the high-end version of the vitality pill? Some medicines really should not be taken indiscriminately. Too much medicine will cause side effects or aggravate the condition, and too low a medicine will have no effect. I have already checked it for you. For your current body condition, it is just right to take my high-end version of vitality pill. One pill will solve the problem of blocked tendons and veins. The warm and smiling eyes of the staff member standing in front of the dining car flashed. He moved his hands in front of him and pressed a button, and a message was sent out quietly. Avalon was quite smart at this time. As soon as he heard Baikin Chun's words, he understood that the little girl was on his side and would not tell the truth. Moreover, she also took the initiative to bring up the matter of vitality pill. He couldn't bear it. He rubbed his hands excitedly and nodded like a chicken pecking at rice. That's good, that's good. I wonder how you can sell this vitality pill. Avalon, who was once the Empire's #1 mecha master and was doing pretty well now, asked casually. Although Bai Qianchun wanted to kill this fat sheep, she couldn't mess up the price of the pills. She sighed inwardly and gestured, only 60 million pills. What she is bringing with her now is a high-efficiency vitality pill made from better medicinal materials on Wuyuan planet. It is very reasonable to increase the price by 10 million. Avalon's eyes lit up, and then he complained sincerely, "You are selling this too cheaply. It is a life-saving medicine for patients like us who are waiting to die. It is only 60 million star coins, which is too cheap. Why don't you add more?" Cao Jiajia, Jian Yang, the staff member, and even Cao Ting all showed hatred for the rich in their eyes. "You're such a bad old man, and you're still trying to persuade people to increase the price. 60 million star coins is more money than many people can save in hundreds of years. Okay. Let's take the 4 of them, for example." However, Bai Qianchun, the seller, had a growing affection for this old man who looked very dignified and generous. Then she hinted with a smile, "This is the price of a vitality pill. As for the other prices, we will discuss it later, chat." Avalon immediately showed an "I understand" look in his eyes. Isn't it just the shock fee and portrait fee? He must pay more. This little girl is amazing, but we must maintain the relationship well. If he gets sick again or dies next time, he must pay more. I still have to count on her. Seeing that he understood, Bai Qianchun was also satisfied. She took out a porcelain bottle from her arms and planned to pour him a pill, but as soon as the mouth of the bottle tilted an arc, she paused again. "Wait a minute, if I use my own, the medicine I brought saved you, and you paid the bill yourself, so can I still get the rewards in the taskbar hanging downstairs?" Avalon's heart was beating wildly with the small bottle. When he saw it stopped, his breath was suffocated. After hearing Baikin Chun's words clearly, he immediately jumped up and shouted confidently, "Take it, why can't you take it? Who won't let it? Who are you worried about me?" As he spoke, he glared at the handsome young man who was following him with a threatening look. The staff member hurriedly showed an 8-tooth smile and said respectfully to Bai Qianchun, "Yes, Master Avalon is right. You have completed your mission." Bai Qianchun glanced at him and said. Then she poured the vitality pill to Avalon. Avalon looked at the pill in his hand, which was richer in green than the low-end version of the vitality elixir he had just seen. His eyes were shining brightly. He didn't have time to say anything, so he couldn't wait to raise his head and swallow it. Everyone in the room, plus a well-dressed, average-looking man with extremely shrewd eyes who hurriedly walked in from outside the door, all focused their attention on Avalon, who had taken the vitality pill. The effect of taking the vitality pill was much faster than that of Jianzhan. In less than 15 seconds, the color on the old man's dry and thin face began to gradually return to rosy, and then the wind speed around his body began to change. The one who felt it most clearly was the wood elemental user present. The wood elements that were originally surrounding Avalon but could not be absorbed were now like anxious bees, swarming towards his body one after another. Smash it in. After the vitality pill unblocked the tendons, the wood elements were finally able to fill and swim in his body, and then they all fell into the embrace of the superpower core. For a moment, the wood element around Avalon was so rich that it was almost visible to the naked eye. After this state lasted for a minute, the aura around him gradually increased. Anyone with a discerning eye can see that his abilities have been upgraded. Jian Yang's eyes turned green when he saw it. It would be great if his brother could take medicine like this and regain his strength. Unfortunately, his brother was unlucky because of his superpower core. Avalon's power upgrade lasted for 3 minutes before stopping. When the 3 minutes were up, he suddenly opened his eyes, his red face was full of energy and he shouted excitedly, I've recovered, I've fallen, my superpowers have also recovered, and I'm back to level A again, ha 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 ha, great, now I finally don't have to worry about my superpowers falling again when I open my eyes tomorrow, and I'll see those old guys. Everyone in the room also breathed a sigh of relief, with joy on their faces. The well-dressed man at the door walked in and congratulated Avalon with a smile, Master Avalon, congratulations on your recovery. Do you need me to arrange a full-body examination for you? Go, check whatever you want. I have recovered my powers, so why check? Isn't this the best proof? Avalon waved to him impatiently, and the expression on his face that was red just now changed. Smelly, it was obvious that he didn't like to see him. I became the richest man in the world by making meatballs. Author, Lanshan Luzi. Chapter 107. In this regard, the man was not angry at all, and his smile still maintained a good and gentle curve. Seeing Bai Qianchun looking at him, he changed the subject in a good-natured manner and bowed to Bai Qianchun gently and politely. This is the most appropriate service gift and shows the greatest respect for the other person. The staff member hurriedly stepped forward and acted as an introducer. Master of Ancient Medicine, this is Mr. Li Rongyang, the director of our sanatorium. Dean, this is the ancient medical master who just treated patient No. 8. Li Rongyang smiled gently and kindly and bowed to Bai Qianchun again. Hello, Master of Ancient Medicine. It is true that a hero comes from a young age. I didn't expect that Master of Ancient Medicine could develop a special medicine to treat people with supernatural powers at such a young age. The medicine that can solve the problem of nuclear and muscle blockage has come. On behalf of the patients in the sanatorium, I would like to express my sincere gratitude to you. I don't know what the ancient medical masters have planned next. There are many people like Jian Zhan and Master Avalon in our sanatorium. There are patients who are about to cross the line of death. I wonder if you can help a bunch of these poor patients regain their lives. Avalon raised his eyebrows and stood in front of Bai Qianchun. He shouted angrily at Li Rongyang, Gun, don't say these disgusting words to win sympathy. It's more pleasant to use us patients as guinea pigs. It's a pity that you are such a deceitful person. You tricked me into living here before, and you also tricked many patients in my name. Now you want to trick this little girl. Avalon's violent personal attack output made him blush with anger, but Li Rongyang on the opposite side still maintained a gentle smile, as if he was deaf, and his eyes did not change at all, which made people feel uncomfortable at all. I can't see his emotions. This is a cruel person. Bai Qianchun silently increased the danger level of the shaking star. It seemed that she had been trapped. If she didn't handle the matter well, she might not be able to get out of the shaking star. After Avalon vented his anger, he did not insist on the topic just now and gently and politely invited Bai Qianchun and others to eat first. The free dinner was free. After Bai Qianchun nodded slightly to him, he took Cao Jia, who had already shut up to watch the show, and Jian, who had been silent since Li Rongyang appeared and had very complicated eyes. Take a seat together. After finishing the delicious meal, Bai Qianchun didn't waste any time and went directly to Ward 20 under the guidance of the staff member. Li Rongyang also found a reason to check on the patient's condition and came with him. Cao Jiajia, Cao Ting, and the grumpy old man Avalon, who had to follow and supervise Li Rongyang, also followed Bai Qianchun. In other words, except for Jian Yang, who was worried that his eldest brother was not here, everyone in the ward was present just now. Patient number 20, Shi Kun, is a completely different type of man than Jian Zhan. He is tall and burly, with a height of over 1.9 meters. His brain has been shaved bald. In addition, he is currently wearing this blue and white striped suit. The patient was taking it, and the special robotic arm was trapped in the hospital bed. When mania broke out, his facial features were ferocious and ferocious. Those who didn't know better thought he was a serious prisoner in prison. However, compared to Jian Zhan, who was almost as thin as a skeleton, he looked much better from the outside. At least the flesh on his body was still there and his muscles were very solid. Dean, a big, muscular man guarding the hospital bed, stood up expressionlessly and said hello respectfully to Li Rongyang, who walked in. After he finished speaking, he stepped aside and glanced curiously at Bai Qianchun's unfamiliar faces. Li Rongyang smiled at him and nodded. How about it? When did Shi Kun suffer from mania? When will he wake up? The man answered sternly, the attack occurred half an hour ago. According to the original rule, it will take half an hour to wake up. However, his condition began to worsen 3 days ago. The manic episode lasted 5 minutes longer than before. And the destructive power is even stronger. The robot arm has been replaced 5 times in the past 3 days. There was a rare change in Li Rongyang's face, and he frowned slightly, but he returned to his usual gentle smile so quickly that it was almost imperceptible. Then he turned sideways to Bai Qianchun and introduced her slowly. Master of ancient medicine, Shi Kun's situation is special. Most people don't dare to come to take care of him, and no one has taken up the task. This is provided by our Li family. The nurse's name is Fei Meng, and she has been taking care of Shi Kun not long after he moved in. If you need to ask about Shi Kun's situation, you can ask him. Bai Qianchun raised her eyes and glanced at the expressionless and fierce man Femin. She only nodded slightly and said hello, then moved her eyes away and spoke quietly to Li Rongyang. You don't need to understand the situation for the time being. I'll give him some information first. A pulse. Check the pulse. Li Rongyang showed a puzzled expression appropriately, and then asked politely, do I need to get closer? He glanced at the man trapped in the hospital bed with red eyes and a ferocious face, and a flash of darkness flashed across his eyes. He opened his mouth and said, but he is currently in the stage of a violent attack, and his strength is several times greater than usual. There are unpredictable dangers. However, if the ancient medical master is not willing to wait another half hour for him to wake up, we can also use forced drug sedation to make him fall asleep. However, this will damage his body. It's a heavy dose of sedatives. Didn't she want her to hurt Shi Kun's body? Bai Qianchun was thoughtful, and his eyes swept over Li Rongyang's face playfully, but his smile still maintained its usual arc, with no flaws. Tisk, Bai Qianchun let out a light sound, and said with a smile, I don't need your medicine, I have a way to calm him down. Then he passed Li Rongyang's side and walked directly towards Shi Kun on the hospital bed. Femin saw this and wanted to follow, but was stopped by Li Rongyang's look. Avalon, who was always watching him, happened to see the scene. He curled his lips and knew that this Li Rongyang was not a good person. However, after taking the vitality pill, he became extremely confident in Bai Qianchun. Seeing that she dared to walk alone without taking any protective measures, he naturally chose to believe her. But the next second he couldn't help but think about it. Cao Jiajia also saw sharply that the mechanical arm that trapped Shi Kun had signs of breakage, followed by a few crunching sounds. Things developed faster than everyone expected, but it was not as fast as lightning. Shi Kun broke free. His wild red eyes, dehumanized like a wild beast, stared at the nearest prey, Bai Qianshun, who had just walked to the bed. "Boss, be careful." Cao Jiajia was frightened and shouted in fear. Cao Ting, Avalon, even Li Rongyang and Feman all moved, and quickly rushed over to help. I became the richest man in the world by making meatballs. Author, Lanshan Luziyi. Chapter 108. But no matter how fast they were, they could not surpass Bai Qianshun's silver needle. They saw 3 silver lights flashing through the orange-lit ward, and Shi Kun's right wrist, which was the first to pounce, was pricked with a needle first. He roared irrationally and angrily wanted to attack with his strong body, but Bai Qianshun stood up on tiptoes and held down his broad and burly shoulders, and stabbed another silver needle into the right side of his neck. Shi Kun immediately froze half of his body, rolled his blood-red eyes twice, glared at her ferociously, and still wanted to attack with his left hand unyieldingly. Naturally, his left hand could not escape the silver needle. Sanctions. When the 3 silver needles went down, the triangular anesthesia area was connected in a line. Shi Kun, who had a manic attack and was as ferocious as a beast with strong attack power, was pinned to the spot. Only the sound of helpless and furious roars was left, and because of the weight of his body, the reason why he jumped forward was that his entire burly body was about to fall under the bed. Li Yangrong's heart tightened, he pursed his lips, changed direction, and reached out to pick it up, but still couldn't catch Bai Qianshun, who was closest to him. She just raised her eyebrows slightly, grabbed Shi Kun's slender white wrist and dived down. He pulled the person back by the collar and threw him heavily on the big bed. Keeping the movement of picking up the person, his fingers have already touched the fabric of Shi Kun's body. Li Rongyang, Feman and Cao Ting, who were 2 steps behind and rushed towards them, and Avalon and Cao Jiajia, who fell behind the 3 of them, were all stunned. Ah, is this weak girl subduing a violent beast with her bare hands in a live version? What a particularly good point to watch. After the thoughts in their hearts rolled around, everyone in the room calmly collected their emotions, stopped their exaggerated movements, and returned to their calm demeanor. It was because they had made too much fuss just now. Cao Jiajia was even more excited. The boss is indeed a boss. He is very good at promoting plants and making medicines. Even the force value of the 3 moves to defeat the enemy, just like a slender girl pulling up a weeping willow, is also very good. Ah! Li Rongyang was the first to come to his senses and looked at the 3 silver needles stuck in Shi Kun's body in surprise. What principle is this that can keep him awake but unable to move? If there was such a good method, Li Rongyang wouldn't have to worry so much that one day the robotic arm would not be able to control him, and he would have to rely on powerful tranquilizers to suppress him. If it really got worse to that extent, what awaited Shi Kun? Either he died from excessive drug intake, or his condition deteriorated prematurely due to the side effects of the drug, and he became a real irrational beast, and was then dealt with. No matter what the consequences are, he is not what he wants to see. A hint of fragility flashed away in Li Rongyang's eyes, but on his face he was still the gentle and polite dean of the nursing home. Looking at the 3 silver needles pierced on Shi Kun's body was full of inquisitiveness, as if he wanted to remember every detail so that he could learn from his mistakes. Noticing his glance, Bai Qianshun raised an eyebrow and smiled. It's not a principle. Although 3 needles seem simple, it is my unique technique. If others want to learn from me, they have to learn from me under his guidance. It can take anywhere from 10 to 20 years to study, depending on his qualifications. In other words, the technology is still in her hands, and others who want to learn it must go through her. Li Rongyang evaluated the authenticity of this sentence in his mind, but there was insufficient data to draw a correct conclusion. However, after thinking about it, he gave up the idea of stealing from others. After all, the most taboo thing about medical skills is pretending to understand them. copying them without knowing the essence. As a result, you only learn the form but not the spirit. This will only make people worse. I have been the director of a sanatorium for nearly a year. Yes, he has paid attention to this aspect and has also encountered this situation. After pressing Li Ronjiang's little thought, Bai Qianchun focused her attention on the patient Shi Kun. She sat down by the bed, took one of his hands and released a trace of the wood-type supernatural drill as usual. She inserted it into his wrist and began to explore his physical condition. But what people didn't expect was that with such a tiny bit of wood power, Shi Kun, who was still irritable at first, calmed down a bit, and the veins on his neck and forehead that popped up like earthworms didn't seem to be as strong as before. Shocking. Bai Qianchun was stunned, then added a little more wood element and continued to explore. His body, his muscles and veins were not damaged, and he even had more vigor and stronger body than ordinary people. She frowned slightly and followed him all the way to his superpower core before discovering the cause of the disease. The superpower core of a wood-type superpower should be peaceful and stable, but Shi Kun's superpower core is like an ocean in a storm, with ups and downs and unpredictable turbulence. This is not just a bit of disorder, it is almost exploded. If Shi Kun hadn't been a wood-type superpower and was suppressed by the S-level thick wood element, he would have ended up like Jianzhan, with his superpower core being blown into a sieve. Bai Qianchun frowned slightly, revealing a deep thought. The symptoms of Shi Kun and Jianzhan were very similar, and they were both injured in the border battle a year ago. So what caused their superpowers to become like this? Is it because of the same reason? With this idea in mind, Bai Qianchun probed the wood element into Shi Kun's superpower core again. Jianzhan's superpower core had leaked and nothing could be found, but Shi Kun's superpower core still remained. As long as he is intact, the culprit who caused his current situation must still be among them. Bai Qianchun frowned. Shi Kun's power core was turbulent, hiding murderous intent. Even though her power was far better than Shi Kun's, she could only move forward slowly. First, she was afraid that she would use too much power and be embarrassed. The superpower core that could maintain balance couldn't bear it and exploded early. Secondly, the thing hidden in the superpower core was really cunning. On the other side of the hospital bed, Li Rongyang clenched his fists and stared at Bai Qianchun. The other people in the room didn't dare to breathe, and the entire space remained in an eerie silence. Got it? After spending nearly 3 minutes, Bai Qianchun's frown finally relaxed, and the cunning thing hidden in Shi Kun's superpower core was found. This thing seemed like a trace of scarlet color mixed in the rich green paint, like a thin thread that was barely visible. Bai Qianchun used the wood power to detect it, as if using a plug-in clairvoyance to see it clearly. What surprised her even more was that the red thread didn't look like a dead thing, but like a living thing. It seemed to be composed of countless tiny red cells, and it seemed to have the ability to grow and engulf it. What was swallowed was not Shi Kun's wood element, but the special substance on the superpower core wall. This discovery shocked Bai Qianchun. It was strange to think that Jianzhan's superpower core seemed to be very thin. Logically speaking, he was originally an A-level fire superpower, so the superpower core wall should not be so fragile, but Bai Qianzhan did not. When I checked it before, I found that it was just that thin. But now looking at Shi Kun's superpower core, she had the answer in her heart. This red silk cell is a new type of virus that can destroy the nuclear wall of the human body. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I became the richest man in the world by making meatballs. Author, Lanshan Luzi. Chapter 109. What's even more disgusting is that the red fiber cell virus not only devours the wall of the superpower core, it also attacks and disrupts all the elements in the superpower core, preventing it from normal circulation. This is why Shi Kun was diagnosed with superpower nuclear disorder. Main reason. But what Bai Qianchun is most concerned about now is not this, but where are the red cells in Jianzhan's superpower core? According to her judgment, the red thread cell virus is like a living thing and will never disappear before the human body dies. However, when she examined Jianzhan before, she found that this virus did not exist in Jianzhan's superpower core or tendons. Red blood cells. So she now has two guesses in her mind. 1. The red silk cell is still lurking somewhere in Jianzhan's body without her noticing it. 2. It is also the situation that she is most worried about, that is, the red silk cells have been artificially recycled. If this is the reason, it proves that there is a manufacturer hidden behind the red silk cells, and it is related to the border war a year ago. The soldiers on the battlefield have problems with their superpower cores one after another, which is probably due to the conspiracy of the creator behind it. From this, it can be inferred that the person behind this is either a traitor to the empire or a member of the Orc Empire. Both are destabilizing factors and dangers to the Huayao Empire. Bai Qianchun couldn't help but rub her forehead with a headache. There was really no place on this shaking light star that made people feel comfortable. She just wanted to make a quick buck, so why were there always conspiracies coming to her door? But now can she say that she can't save him? Of course not, she would definitely not do such a thing to destroy the brand name. This could easily affect her development plan of Muyuan Star and the great cause of pills that she had been thinking about since her previous life. Well, Bai Qianchun sighed, surviving in the interstellar world is not easy. It is even more difficult for a person as capable and smart as her. She is always worried that because of her superb medical skills and strong sense of presence, she will ruin other people's plans and be killed. No, she is alone in front of those forces and is an easy target to bully. Although she is strong and is not afraid of those open and secret attacks, too many flies and mosquitoes will always be bad, and it may also affect her. Among Xingmen, especially Leng Xiao and Ye Yang, they are the two people she cares about most. If anything happens to them, nothing will happen to them. Therefore, one way is to establish a strong and unprovoked background for yourself, so that those who want to take action will be too afraid to do anything. When she frowned and thought about where to find this powerful background, everyone in the room was frightened and scratched their heads as they watched her frown changing. Master of ancient medicine, is Shi Kun's condition very difficult? Li Rongyang couldn't help but look at Bai Qianchun, and spoke in a dry voice. He clenched his two fists tightly against the seam of his trousers, and his fingers were knotted. It started to turn white, and at the end there was still an inaudible tremor in his voice. He was prepared for the worst and asked with a heavy heart, can he be saved? Bai Qianchun responded subconsciously, and was brought back to reality by his voice. She squinted her eyes and looked up at Li Rongyang opposite. She didn't bother to explore his relationship with Shi Kun, and why she was worried. She quickly answered. He said, "Of course it can be saved. I have found the cause of his abnormal nuclear disorder, but the cause of his confusion and loss of reason is like a wild beast. You wait a little longer and I will take a look." Bai Qianchun's casual attitude made Li Rongyang, who was opposite him, feel certain in his heart, and joy surged up. He then looked at her expectantly, and said with suppressed excitement, okay, I'll wait." Yet after finishing perfunctory with Li Yangrong, Bai Qianchun exhaled, pushing aside the complicated thoughts just now, and then raised his eyes to meet Shi Kun's red and ferocious eyes like wild beasts. She directly stretched out her hand, ignoring his threatening and ferocious eyes, holding Shi Kun's head in her hands and moving it up and down to begin the inspection. Bai Qianchun made another surprised sound, and Li Rongyang quickly asked nervously, "How's it going?" Bai Qianchun held Shi Kun's head, looked into his eyes and marveled, hypnosis, he was hypnotized, and he was deeply hypnotized. Li Rongyang watched with twitching eyelids as she took a silver needle and poked it into the area around Shi Kun's eye, and it was deep. His heart beat wildly, and he suppressed the urge to pull out the needle. He thought for a while and said, "Hypnosis, I know something about this. The royal family of the Orc Empire are fox orcs. They have a kind of hypnotic ability. In the border war a year ago, the royal family of the Orc Empire also participated in the war. Shikun, it is also very possible to be affected by the hypnotic power. Besides him, there are several soldiers who are in a similar situation to him, but those soldiers are not on the Fluttering Star and should still be receiving treatment in the hospitals arranged by their respective legions." Bai Qianchun glanced at him and said, "Dean Li's investigation was quite detailed." Li Ronjiang's eyelids twitched, knowing that since he entered this ward, he could not control his emotions and exposed too many flaws, which cannot be hidden from the eyes of smart people. He no longer tried to cover up this, but he did not admit it, just he smiled gently and politely. "As the director of a nursing home, it is your duty to understand every patient in the hospital." The staff member, who was already deeply impressed by Li Ronjiang's professionalism, had no doubts and nodded as a matter of course. "Yes, their dean is so dedicated." Bai Qianchun glanced at him with a half-smile, then stopped continuing the topic and went straight to the topic, talking about Shikun's condition. "There are currently two main problems with him. One is the superpower core, and the other is this hypnosis. The problem with the superpower core can be easily solved. I will just make another repair pill and give it to him. As for the hypnosis, I happen to have some understanding of this, so it's not a problem to solve it. But I still need some medication, and I need preparation time. Shikun will have to suffer a little tonight, and I will start formal treatment on him tomorrow morning." As for the red silk cells, she didn't intend to tell them. If there really was a producer behind it, and she told the matter so openly, wouldn't she be putting herself on a target for others to attack? What a fool! Li Rongyang, who didn't know what she was thinking, immediately lit up his eyes, and his gentle smile was a bit genuine. "Okay, I feel relieved with the assurance from the ancient medical master. Just make a list of the medicinal materials that the ancient medical master needs, and our sanatorium will definitely provide it." Bai Qianchun was also satisfied. With the director of the sanatorium giving the green light, the search for medicinal materials would probably not be as difficult as before. Sure enough, the medicinal ingredients delivered 3 minutes later were complete and of sufficient vintage. They even doubled the amount she needed. I became the richest man in the world by making meatballs. Author, Lanshan Luziy. Chapter 110. Bai Qianchun reciprocated and gave Li Rongyang 2 pills. These 2 pills are called sleeping pills. 1 pill can kill a cow. According to Shikun's situation, he has to take 2 pills. Although the 3 needles I inserted can stop him, but 1 night of pricking can easily affect the blood circulation in his body, so it would be better to take 2 sleeping pills, which have no side effects. The words "no side effects" were said to Li Ronjiang's heart. He smiled and thanked him for taking it. After receiving it, he only paused for a moment before opening Shikun's mouth and feeding him. Although the action seemed rough, Bai Qianchun still saw the gentleness hidden behind him with sharp eyes, and did not hurt Shikun in the slightest. The pill melted in the mouth, and within a minute, Shikun, who was still roaring incompetently and furiously, began to droop his eyelids, and his red and violent eyes gradually lost their luster. Finally, the eyelids completely merged with the lower eyelids to form a thin slit, stable. Fell into a deep sleep. Surprise flashed through Li Ronjiang's eyes, and he breathed a sigh of relief in his heart. He turned his head and saw Bai Qianchun's eyes exposed outside the mask looking at him with a smile. He twitched the corners of his mouth, his face was stiff and tight. Also followed Panasonic. He took the gamble on the only one that seemed the most promising. Bai Qianchun didn't waste any time after that. After pulling out 3 silver needles, she was ready to greet Cao Jia to go out. Li Rongyang ordered Feman to take care of the person and quickly caught up with him. He followed Bai Qianchun and asked politely, "Does the ancient medical master have a place to stay tonight? Do you need my help to arrange it?" Bai Qianchun paused slightly, looked at him with a smile, and said in a slightly mocking tone, "You should know best whether I have made any arrangements." She was on the shaking light star, which was equivalent to being under the eyes of the Li family. She didn't believe that these people didn't investigate her whereabouts on the shaking light star. Sure enough, Li Rongyang smiled gently and said wisely, "The rooms in our nursing home are no worse than those in hotels, or even better. I have arranged a luxurious suite for you, including a fully equipped kitchen. Look, isn't this a clear investigation? Even she knows how to use the pot to make meatballs." Then he smiled and looked at Cao Ting, who was wandering over from the side. "Of course Master Cao's room has been arranged, right next to the ancient medical master." Cao Jiajia's eyes suddenly lit up, and she looked at her uncle eagerly. "Then I will sleep on the sofa in the living room. I think that sofa is very comfortable. I will follow the boss to watch the doctor tomorrow morning." As for going over to sleep with Bai Qianchun, she was not that shameless. After all, they had only known each other for a day, and they were semi-deceived into forming a team by her. Let's look at the operation after the big boss followed her in. He treated difficult patients one after another, even her grandfather couldn't compare. Looking at it this way, her task of helping to find a little assistant has become an embarrassing existence. Li Rongyang politely interrupted, "You don't have to sleep on the sofa. The room I arranged for Master Cao is a double bedroom." So Cao Jiajia's favorable impression of the director of the nursing home rose from negative to 50 points, because of his thoughtfulness. Although the reason for this thoughtfulness was not her and her grandfather, it didn't matter. After leaving the door of ward number 20, Bai Qianchun did not go directly to the room arranged for her by Li Rongyang. Instead, she walked towards Jian Zhan's ward. She called it a pre-bedtime ward check and was serious and responsible for her patients. In fact, only she knew that she was here to confirm her guess. Jian Zhan hasn't woken up yet. Bai Qianchun is the only one who can go into the bedroom to see him. Li Rongyang and Cao Jiajia who followed him are all blocked by Jian Yang, the little wolf cub. Anyone who wants to go in will be bitten. The kind, super fierce. This also happened to be convenient for Bai Qianchun, as he didn't have to be secretive. The wood power penetrated Jian Zhan's body. Bai Qianchun checked very carefully this time. After removing the tendons, he carefully gave his body a baptism of wood power, but still did not find any traces of red blood cells. Alas, now we can finally conclude that there is really someone behind this red silk cell, and someone has even recycled it. Does this red silk cell have any other functions besides being able to engulf the nuclear wall with superpowers? In the dim room, because he didn't want to disturb Jian Zhan's sleep, he only turned on a faint night light lamp in the back half of the room, which was not as bright as the brilliance of the 6 origin stars coming through the window. Bai Qianchun sat beside the bed. The soft light of the source star fell gently on the corners of her eyes that were not covered by the mask. The thick and slender eyelashes cast a shadow under her. At this time, her dark eyes surged with complex emotions, distress, trouble, darkness, and a bit of eagerness to try. It seems there is really a maker behind it. I can take it back to study after I take out the red thread cells in Shikun's superpower core tomorrow. Research. She lowered her eyes and glanced at Jian Zhan, who was still sleeping soundly. The corners of her mouth under the mask were slightly raised. She was still very interested in research. Then she got up and walked towards the door, closing the only light in the room. Night light. In the darkness, a pair of eyes slowly opened with complex emotions. After Bai Qianchun returned to the room prepared for her, dark clouds passed by, covering up the soft brilliance of the origin star, but the undercurrent hidden in the darkness on the shaking light star had just begun to surge. Li Rongyang returned to Shikun's ward and saw that such a big man like Shikun was sleeping peacefully like a bear, and his saliva was almost drooling. His nervousness gradually relaxed, and there was even a smile on his lips. Feman came over, got close to him, and asked with excitement on his expressionless face, "Brother Shi Lian, can our brother Shikun really be cured this time? I see the little boy wearing a mask who came just now. The girl is quite reliable. The moves she used to subdue brother Shikun just now were so damn neat. From my perspective, she controlled her strength very well. It looked like we brothers had practiced it." As he spoke, his expression suddenly became solemn. He looked at Li Rongyang and said hesitantly, "Could she have been sent here to test you, brother Shi Lian?" Li Rongyang: "No, the man whose real name was Shi Lian." He glanced at Feman, shook his head slightly and analyzed, "It's probably not the case. Our identity on the shaking light star is very clean now, and people over there won't know about it, and my current identity is just a useful chess piece under Li Chao, and I am only an insider of the Li family, but that old fox Li Chao has begun to reuse me, and I have reached an agreement with Li Heun. After signing the agreement, apart from these two people on shaking light star, no one will work on me, so the possibility of testing me is unlikely.